Are you still buying gas, groceries, and fast food without getting cash back? Why are you doing that? You could be getting cash back on all of these things. And not like, here's some credits to use at this store again and some points. This is cash. This is money on your phone that you can then deposit straight into your PayPal and then put that into your bank account. Over the last 2 years, I have earned $299.39 on Upside. Now, they have cashback offers at all kinds of places. Circle K, Lion's Choice, local random restaurants, Papa Murphy's, Phillips 66, Huck's, all kinds of places now. You can get cash back just for shopping there. All you have to do is give them the last 4 digits of your card, and then they just make sure that you use those same cards at these places and give you cash back on the app. When you go to get the app, use the invite code Janice3538. That's JANICE 3538 to get an automatic 15 cents back per gallon on your first transaction using the app. This year, I'm using the money that we save up for Christmas. It's May, and I've only used it a couple of times on things other than gas, and I already have almost $60 saved up for Christmas for the kids this year. I'm hoping to have about $200 saved up, which doesn't sound far-fetched, especially because now they're offering it at over 50 different local restaurants and 50 different nationwide companies. So like I said, get the app, Upside. That's UPSIDE, and use the invite code Janice3538 to get 15 cents per gallon back on your first transaction. Upside doesn't share any of your personal information with your referral network, so you don't have to worry about like your friends who you refer to the app knowing everything you do and everywhere you shop. Same with people who you are referred from, so don't worry. No one's going to know all the things that you buy.
You dumb fucking bitch!
Bitch.
Bitch!
You bitch! The mega bitch!
Heinous bitch is the fucking bitch!
Bitch?
You're a bitch!
The bitch.
Hi, it's me. I'm here again with High Bitch by Bitch, the podcast where a bitch gets high and talks about shit and just so happens to be bi. My week was hectic. It's Monday. Like, I didn't even get to record this on Sunday because, well, we fucked up our sleep schedule, honestly. That's why I couldn't record it this weekend. But this past week was crazy because it was our kids' spring break. It was also both of our daughters' birthdays. So we had all the kids home, including the oldest, who normally doesn't stay here during the week when we have them for school because his bus that comes to this house, all the kids who ride it are assholes. So he doesn't want to ride it, and he has to cross a major road. So we don't make him. He stays with his mom during the school week. So he stayed with us the whole week, which was different and wild because he's 16, almost 17. So he's a different kind of kid. He's wild, and he gets all the rest of them riled up. So we had a lot of shit to do this week. We were very fucking busy. And then Saturday night, husband and I made the mistake of staying up until 6 o'clock in the morning. So then we slept until literally 3 p.m. and then stayed up again until like 2. So it was just bad. It was just like one of those things. So I just didn't get to record yesterday. And I was really busy at work today. I usually leave work at like 2-ish, but I didn't leave work till almost 4:30 today. Fucking insane. I was so busy. And it wasn't even like the volume of shit that I had to do today. It was more the size of the packages I had to do today. They took forever. But the only interesting thing that really happened this week was the girls' birthdays. I don't have really anything else. This is future Janice just stepping in to warn you that it's about to get really heavy, really political for like 3 minutes because of all of the shit that's happened in the past week. And actually, like, the last 24 hours especially. So this is just my trigger warning. I'm about to get real fucking upset and go on a mini rant about, like, politics, TikTok, gun control, mental health, LGBTQ, I'm about to get real upset. So if you want to skip forward like 3 minutes so you don't have to listen to it, you please fucking go right ahead. Except for the TikTok ban. And honestly, this is the only place I can really talk about this without having to deal with like the politics of it all and people arguing with me. If you are unaware of what this is really about, then you're honestly just a fucking idiot at this point. If you do not realize that this has absolutely nothing to do with cybersecurity and data breaches. Nothing to do with it at all. All you have to do is look at who bought stock in Meta and then look at who spoke. Oh, look, it's the same fucking people. We're not fucking stupid. I hate it because then I get into these stupid like argument discussions with people where they're like, but you know what? Oh my God. Meta is literally selling our data through Cambridge Analytica. Like, the fuck is wrong with people? There's whole ass documentaries. There's news releases. There's actual court documents about all of this shit, about them manipulating 2 different elections. Seriously, like, y'all aren't seeing how they want to control the next election, and they realize they cannot do that if TikTok is around? Like, you fucking idiots. Duh. Like, seriously. If this was what it was like in pre-Hitler Germany, or like the beginning of Hitler like, oh my God, I feel so bad for the people who were like screaming in other people's faces, this guy is fucking evil. What are you people doing? This is horrible. Because that's how we all are. And then with the shooting in Nashville today, finding out that the alleged shooter probably identified as non-binary. Awesome. Super fucking fantastic for our community. Not saying that this person probably didn't have issues that needed to be addressed. We all know that. Every time one of these things happens, it's the 2 things that we talk about are guns and healthcare, or mental health care. And with this one, I can't even imagine what the situation was. We never know. In these things, unless they have a manifesto, we will never know real reasonings as to why these things happen. Unless we find, like texts or blogs or things like that, we don't ever really know. It's all speculative. Because if they die in the incident, we never know what happens. So it's really sad because this incident is just going to add like jet fuel to this anti-LGBTQ rhetoric that's going around. It just really is. And I hate that this is what it's going to come down to. No one, when this comes out, no one is going to think about those poor babies that lost their lives and the teachers who sacrificed themselves for the other kids. No one is going to think about any of that. It is going to be pure on crazy conservative people attacking us, queer people, saying that, oh, look, it was a non-binary person who shot up a Christian school after hundreds of fucking cishet white men have shot up schools over and over and over and killed hundreds of children and innocent people. They're going to hyper-focus on this, and I can see it, and I don't like making this super political, but it has to be because this is what's fucking happening right now. So, future Janice again. I know that was some hot button shit that probably touched on some nerves, but I'm tired of having to censor myself. These are the feelings that I have, and that's what you came here for, were my feelings and opinions on certain things, and this is very sensitive. I have 4 fucking kids in school, so this is very, very close to home on many different levels. All right, well, get into the musical feature so I can really lighten this up. I'm so sorry for getting so heavy, guys. And honestly, this is the best musical feature for this because this girl's voice is beautiful. Her music is so mellow, lo-fi, chill, positive vibes, rebirth, all of that. I'm fucking here for it. It's Miss Kaylee Wilson. Her song is called Pisces Moon. It's gorgeous. Just wait till you hear it.
Timelines dissolving as new ones grow. I take what's meant for me and leave the rest. I hold gratitude close to my chest. Some flowers grow in the cracks.
See, it's just so pretty and like chill. I love her music. It's really beautiful and it gives like big witchy vibes and stuff. I'll put her links in the show notes. And my new feature each week that I've decided to do will be a small business. I encourage everyone to at least go and check out or follow, subscribe any of the artists that I feature. You don't necessarily have to patronize them, but following, subscribing, sharing, commenting, liking, doing all of the things, pressing all the buttons, it really helps, especially with small businesses. So this week, I will do my friend Beth, who owns Handmade by Gnomes. In some of my older videos on TikTok, you may have seen wire-wrapped pieces that I would wear. I don't wear necklaces anymore with my throat tattoo. I want to highlight my fucking throat tattoo because it's awesome. But all of my wire-wrapped pieces were made by Beth. She does pre-made, ready-to-sell, ready-to-ship items. She can do any kind of stone. She will do any kind of design. She's done everything from like pistols to hummingbirds, cats, bats, just free flow, can't talk, wire wrapping. She also goes live on TikTok. I will put her TikTok, her Facebook, and just those two for now. I don't know if she has a shop. If she has a shop, I'll put her shop link in there too. But I've known Beth for a couple of years now. I think we actually met in a Facebook group, funnily enough, which is weirdly where I meet a lot of my friends. But her work is beautiful and very reasonably priced for how much like man-hour time goes into each one of these. But that's going to be my new feature. Each week we're going to do a musical artist and a small business. So if you know either, or if you are either one of those and you want to be featured, fucking tell me. I have to go search out each week for a musical artist to feature. And this month I've been focusing mainly on female artists. We will always prioritize female, trans, non-binary, BIPOC, basically anyone but cishet white males. Okay? All right? Basically any other kind of human being, we will prioritize their musical feature. Same with small businesses. I really want to gear towards, like I've said before, featuring more LGBTQ BIPOC artists. That's going to always be my thing. I always want to put a focus on those kinds of artists, musically and small business wise. So anyway, everyone's favorite time now. It's our social. Smoke it if you got it. And if you don't, well, why the fuck not? And why are you here? I got a new lighter, so it's not going to sound like a regular lighter. It sounds like a taser. You probably can't even fucking hear it, but it sounds like a taser. So cheers. I forgot the biggest fucking news ever. How could I forget this? I am so upset with myself. I hit 10K on TikTok yesterday. And that means that I got playlists. Which means that Jana's hyperfixated on playlists for literally 3 fucking hours. I think I made 12 to 15 playlists on TikTok and organized like almost everything. I went back to the very beginning of that TikTok account, because if you didn't know, that's my second TikTok account. My first one is private now, and I can't even log into it. I really don't fucking care. Most of those videos are stupid anyway. But this account, I went back the 2 years that I've had it and tried to put almost every video into a playlist. I got to like January of last year before I had to stop because like I had said, spent 3 fucking hours doing this. So it was like, bitch, you need to stop now. You can come back to this later, but it's gonna suck because I have to go back and figure out what fucking video I stopped on. But it's really fun and easy and I love it so much. And now everything's organized. Like, if you want to watch me dance, there's a playlist. If you want to watch me give unsolicited PSAs, there's a playlist. Like, there's a playlist for everything. The only one I didn't make yet is cooking, because I haven't really gotten to any of my cooking videos, because I don't really remember if I did too many actual videos or if they were mostly just like lives. Which, okay, so joined that clapper shit. It's like Boomer Central over there, or like super out of touch Gen Xers Gen Xers who don't know what the fuck's going on. It's fucking different. It's like that one sound, everybody's so creative. That's that. I'm pretty sure her name is Tanera Double Chocolate. She needs to be on there and just do that with people's videos. It would be fucking great. Especially because when you duet or stitch on there, it's called clapping back. Which, I'm sorry, but like, if that's not the most like, hello, fellow teens, I am teen too. We're going to be hip with the lingo. Like that, if that is not so much of that, calling it clapping back, like I can't, oh my God. And the fact that they boast like, we don't have filters. There's no filters. You're saying you're boring. The fuck? The filters are like 90% of the best part of TikTok. And the fact that everything, I keep getting content from El Salvador, so I don't know if that's like the first country that they like released the app in, but I'm getting nothing but videos from Portugal and El Salvador. It's crazy. All right, so I guess I should probably actually get into the topic of the fucking episode right now, which is Grey Gardens. And if you're not gay and campy, you probably have no fucking idea what I'm talking about, but Grey Gardens, you are about to learn about it. It's fucking great. So, all the way back in 1895, Edith Ewing Bouvier Beale, known as Big Edie, was born on October 5th. She was the daughter of Maud Frances Sargent and Jean Venu Bouvier Jr. I really like to say that with the accent, who are the paternal grandparents of Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. And if you don't know who that is, it's Jackie O. Like JFK, Jackie O. Yeah. So, Miss Edie, Big Edie, she pursued a career as a singer before marrying. She had 2 brothers and 3 sisters, 2 of which were twin sisters. Her father was a lawyer, a prominent lawyer in New York until becoming a judge. And she was considered unruly, mischievous, and disrespectful of authority when she was younger, traits that carried well into her adult life, as you will see. Her family, the Bouviers, liked to spread the false narrative that they were descendants from royal, like French royalty, and they actually weren't. They just like to fucking tell everybody that, which was actually really common. If you go back to like New York elite social life back then, everyone lied about everything. This country's built on lies in so many fucking ways. Most of which is New York elite socialites. They lied about fucking everything. Like, look at Great Gatsby. All those people, they were all lying about everything. Like, the fuck? So, she split time between Lasada, which is in the East Hampton. It's a compound that her family had that became famous for its connection to the Onassis family, and their family home in Manhattan. They're the kind of people who had 2 houses. Not like a summer home. They had like 2 houses that they just decided to live in whenever they felt like it. So then, in 1917... she married Phelan Beale. And I think that's how you say his name. It's been a while since I've seen the actual movies, but we're saying Phelan. And if it's not right, well, then I don't know. I guess I'm feeling right. I should just shut up sometimes. I swear. Anyway, she met her husband because he was a partner at her dad's law firm. He was 14 years older than her when they married. They got married at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. Edie demanded that there be a full choir as well as a soprano solo, which she later said that she would have done herself had she not been the one getting married. It's like, that's how full of herself she was. And the couple lived in New York on Madison Avenue. Their address is now the site of the Carlisle Hotel. And the home had a full staff, including personal chauffeurs. So, like I said, in 1917, they got married. And then also, November 7th of 1917, little Edie was born. In 1920, Phelan Jr. was born. And then in 1922, Bouvier was born. They named one of their sons her maiden name, which I guess is like, my sister named one of her sons, my grandpa's family's maiden name, or, yeah. So, I mean, like, that's a thing, but it was just, So, in 1923-24 time, it's conflicting in the records when they actually bought this house. In 1923, they bought Grey Gardens. So, 23-24, they bought Grey Gardens. Now, little history on Grey Gardens. It is located in the Georgica neighborhood of the East Hamptons, a block from the Atlantic Ocean. In 1897, Stanhope Phillips and his wife, the newspaper heiress Margaret Bagg Phillips, bought the land at 3 West End Road, and in 1895, and 2 years later in 1897, they decided to build their dream home. Now, they had a lot of construction delays because of legal issues securing the deed to the property, and during these delays, Mr. Phillips died unexpectedly, leaving his wife the entire estate. Now, Mrs. Phillips refused an autopsy and had her husband cremated before one could be ordered, which sparked rumors among the New York City elite. Mr. Phillips' late brother challenged Mrs. Phillips to the deed of the estate, claiming that she used undue influence on her late husband to gain control over the estate. Now, the courts ruled in her favor in 1901, regardless of the appeal by Mr. Phillips' brother, and she moved forward with building her cottage on the land. So she builds her cottage. It's not as sprawling as it was when the Beals lived there. It was sold to Robert C. Hill, who was the president of a coal company in 1913. And Mrs. Hill was an acclaimed gardener, and she turned the small cottage estate into a sprawling garden oasis. She imported ornate concrete garden walls from Spain, which she planted all around the garden, and she had lavender, climbing roses, and delphinium all planted around and in the garden. So it looked really picturesque once they lived there, the Hills. And the look of the gardens from one of the mansion rooms inspired the name Grey Gardens. The house had 14 rooms. It had 4 acres of land, and it was 6,652 square feet. Whew. That's a number I could not say very well. So in 1923, like I said, in 1923, 1924, Big Edie purchases Grey Gardens. Now, she doesn't actually buy it. Her husband obviously buys it, but it's her estate. Like, that is her home. So she staffed the house fully, even having an in-house accompanist named George Gould Strong, who was there. There was like many rumors about him. And in the movie, he's portrayed as like a gay confidant. Like, he's just portrayed as really campy and flamboyant. So there isn't really a hint of them having an affair, but at the same time there is. I remember there being like really subtle undertones of like sexual tension between them. It was kind of weird. Many visitors insisted that he and Big Edie were totally involved with each other. But like I said, there's with all of this pretty much, except for what is legally on paper or put in newspapers, most of it is from gossip rags or the like literal hearsay from over the years. So it's not really sure what actually did and didn't happen, you know. But Big Edie would wear colorful, lavish costumes and host loud parties in her parlor that she turned into a dance hall. And she would feature herself as the main entertainment for most of those parties. So it was basically like she was inviting people over to watch her perform. That's not like narcissistic tendencies or anything. And when Big Edie was partying in Grey Gardens, her husband Phelan was trying to save the law firm, as during the Depression, like many other large law firms and corporations, they began hemorrhaging money as soon as the stock market started to crash. So like this was a couple years into the stock market crash, Great Depression. So they were just fucking losing money left and right. So in the 1930s, little Edie started attending Spence, which was like a finishing school or like a boarding school. And then her family decided that they needed to board her at Miss Porter's, which was a Connecticut finishing school famous for having the Onassis and Radziwill families attending. Once she graduated, little Edie was presented as a debutante at the Pierre Hotel's debutante ball. And she was like her mother in that she was interested in music, literature, and the arts, but she was led to believe that her main quality was her marriageability and that she would need a husband to support her for most of her life. So that's like, if you didn't know what debutante balls are, they're one of my special interests. I find them to be so fucking interesting. They would parade these girls around like show ponies, and basically they had these thing called dance cards, and they would wear them around their wrists, and like every guy who danced with them would have to like write his name on the card so you can like keep track of it. And like if you decided you wanted them to court you, it was a whole fucking thing. It's interesting in all the nuances and like the traditional stuff they had to do and all of the ritualistic things they had to go through. It just cracks me up that all of this shit they had to do that just carried over from, you know, English customs into America, and they try to kind of pass it off as if it's like this American thing. It's fucking French. Get the fuck out of here. Look at it's debutante. The word is debutante. What the fuck do you think it's about or comes from? What the Sorry. America's funny sometimes. We're like a really long joke. So, in 1940, Big Edie's mother dies. And that kind of sent her into a little, like a mini tailspin where she just started to become more unraveled and crazy and just would do outlandish shit, like have these big, huge fucking parties costing thousands of dollars. Now, I'm not going to do one of those inflation calculators, but think about how much $1,000 is now. This is 800 years ago, basically. This is 100 years ago. Think about how much $1,000 was back then. My fucking God. She was spending thousands of dollars on these parties every night when her husband, his law firm, is just bleeding out money. Just bleeding money because it's the Great Depression and it's not like anybody's getting a fucking lawyer for little petty shit anymore. The stock market crashed. Wall Street basically doesn't exist. So, they don't have this money for her to be doing this. So in the 1940s, Big Edie had a lover, but some people say it was the accompanist. Some people say it was another guy who would come and stay at Grey Gardens. We're not really sure. Whoever it was, they split by the early 50s. And in 1946, Phelan divorces Big Edie. He moved to Mexico and didn't notify Edie until he was already down there. Through telegram. He got a Mexican divorce through telegram. And he took up a new wife. But Edie still received child support. And she got sole ownership of Grey Gardens. Like I was saying, it was hers. He bought it, but he gave it to her. So then in 1952, little Edie continued to spend time in East Hampton with her mother, and she even spent some time in Palm Beach. She had a tumultuous affair with the former Secretary of the Interior, Julius Captain Krug, who she would always say was the love of her life until she died. She was consumed by him. Like, that was her great love, was Secretary of the Interior. Like, get it, girl? So then... I forgot. In 1948, Big Edie's father died, and they had a huge falling out before he died at her son's wedding over her choice of clothing. And then when he died, he left her tiny little bit of money and left most of the money to her twin sisters. And the money that was left to Edie was left in the care of her sons. So Big Edie's sons, Little Edie's brothers, were left in charge of Big Edie's inheritance from her father, which, how would you feel like if your kids were in charge of your money? Ugh. And they would give her and little Edie a $300 a month stipend, which wouldn't be enough to employ staff for the estate, which is very important. So then in 1956, Phelan Sr. dies. So this greatly reduced the Edie's monthly income, which was already only $300 a month, remember, and they did not have money to employ a full staff on the estate. So they wanted, the brothers wanted the Edies to move to a smaller estate, like an apartment or something, anything to reduce costs, but they refused. They absolutely refused. So they basically ran out of money, and I think it was 2 years they ran out of money. So then in... So little Edie was still pursuing a career in show business. She was staying at a hotel in Barbizon in New York, and she was invited to an audition for a prominent Broadway producer. But because Big Edie couldn't afford to support her anymore, she had to move back home to Grey Gardens. And this was in 1957-ish, 57 to 60s. It doesn't say exactly. So then around this time, Big Edie meets Tom Logan at the Sea Spray Inn, and he's an ex-rodeo cowboy. He moves into the estate and stays there in exchange for upkeeping the house. But even with his help, the house appeared to be abandoned with a car left in the front yard that didn't run anymore and had the keys in the ignition and everything. It was pretty bad. So in 1960s, the Edies were pretty much social recluses. Aside from Big Edie attending the JFK inauguration and a party where while they weren't home, they were robbed, that pretty much set them into a reclusive nightmare. They just didn't leave the house after that because of the break-in. The two women had started to mainly occupy the second floor, And after selling off most of the main floor furniture, Big Edie also couldn't move around because she had no mobility because she had rapid onset arthritis. The women had been allowing both cats and raccoons to live within the house, coming and going through the doors and windows left open, as well as the large holes that had developed due to lack of upkeep on the building. They had stopped paying the utilities, and as such, they had no power or running water, and the trash had just started to pile up outside the house because the local trash company had stopped picking up. So they just had piles of garbage outside their house. And then in 1964, Tom Logan, who was the ex-rodeo cowboy, he died in the kitchen on the cot that he slept on. And it was either from complications of pneumonia or consumption, which consumption is just like alcoholism and being in poor health. So in 1972, after many complaints from the neighbors and the local authorities, they came to check on the property, and they ordered that it either be cleaned up or torn down because it was derelict. It was basically abandoned. It looked like no one had touched the property in years, while these two women were actively living there with like 60 cats and all these raccoons and shit. So when the newspapers got wind that the women who were living in this house were related to Jackie O, the story got legs and blew up, saying that the family were living in squalor while Jackie was living a life of luxury, which obviously it wasn't Jackie O's fault. She had no fucking idea. These are her cousins and her aunt. Like, she has no idea what's going on with them. She's about to become the first lady, or she did just become the first lady. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So when the ASPCA came, they took many of the cats from the property because they hadn't been spaying or neutering any of these cats, so they were just multiplying like crazy. And at the same time this was happening, Lee Radziwill, which is Jackie O's sister, she ran around with like the artistic elite. She ran with like Andy Warhol. She was working on a documentary film about her childhood, and she and Jackie were both involved with renovating and cleaning up the house. Jackie funded it with a $25,000 personal check that she wrote out for the renovation and upkeep of the home, and Lee oversaw the actual upkeep and cleanup and all the work that was done. The Maisel brothers, who were friends with Andy Warhol, they came and decided to film the entire rehab project, and the footage was mostly lost until recently when it was released as the prequel to Grey Gardens called That Summer. So then in 1975, the Maisel brothers decided to return and film the two women and create the now iconic cult classic documentary, Grey Gardens. A big part of the documentary was little Edie discussing what she believed her life could have been like if she had not been under her mother's thumb and staying at Grey Gardens. She had tried to leave many times. If you watch the 2009, you'll see in that movie this comes from, people that that grew up with them, people who knew both of the Edies, the family. Edie wanted to leave. She tried to leave many times. She did leave and ended up coming back every single time because she never had the support of her mom. Her mom was always jealous of her. Big Edie was forever jealous of little Edie. I think a lot of it had to do that she never got married, and Big Edie was jealous of that because little Edie, in her eyes, got to live her life however she wanted and didn't have to have a man controlling her, but she did have someone controlling her. It was just her mom. You know what I mean? Like, her want to be a star made it so Big Edie kept her daughter from ever achieving anything in life because she just was holding her back the whole time. And so then little Edie's passion for astrology, the Catholic Church, and the staunch characters made her the undeniable star of the film, while her mother tried with no avail to be the center of attention. Her mother, she would say these ignorant, mean things to her and just call her names and make fun of her and talk all kinds of shit on her daughter, in front of this camera crew, on film. Like, you could tell she wanted so badly for the spotlight to be on her, and little Edie was like, nope, I'm more interesting. Watch this. And literally just blew up. It was great. So despite the house having been rehabbed 3 years earlier, and having most of the animals removed, the continual accumulation of more cats and raccoons and never getting the cats fixed, plus having no real help of the estate, meant that the house and the yard were right back into disrepair. You can see it in Grey Gardens. The house is just like falling apart, and it looks like it does. You can tell that something had been done to it. Like, you can tell it had been cleaned and rehabbed, but then it was like cleaned and rehabbed and nothing ever was done again. They never dusted again. They never swept the floor. It was, you know what I mean? Like, the only sweeping that little Edie really ever does is when she goes out on the front porch to sweep and like see what's going on in the community, which she had done at one time, and there was an issue with some of the neighbors. So then she stopped going out onto the front porch. And once the measles came, that was like the first time she went on the front porch in years, because I think she was saying that it made the neighbors uncomfortable and they were like complaining about her. So then in 1977, Big Edie passes away. And it is suspected that she died from complications of pneumonia at a Southampton hospital. Following her mother's death, little Edie had a stint as a cabaret singer in a club in Greenwich Village. Many people claim that this was just her being taken advantage of. Like, a lot of people think that Edie was being taken advantage of. I personally think that even if someone was doing that, she didn't see it that way. I personally think that was like everything to her. Getting to sing and have her own show and be on a stage in front of a crowd, regardless of what context it was in, regardless if those people were making fun of her, to her, it wasn't like that. And she has a legacy now that lives on like well after her death. And it will live on for as long as it can, because she was just that kind of person, and she was never allowed to be that kind of person. She was always tamped down and smothered by her mom and made to think that she wasn't as good as her mom. And like, you can see it in the HBO movie that Edie does anything she can to make little Edie feel inferior and like she's not good enough. And like, when she tries to go off and wants to go to New York, her mom makes her feel like shit about it. I'm pretty sure she doesn't even say bye to her. Makes her feel like shit when she leaves the house. And that's just not fucking fair. You have to let your kids go off and live their lives. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck was the point then? You're just going to create another version of yourself so they can be just as miserable as you? What the fuck was the point? So then, in 1979, little Edie sold Grey Gardens to the Washington Post editors Ben Bradley and Sally Quinn for a little more than $220,000 and a promise that the couple would restore it. Edie relocated to Florida, where she lived for the rest of her life in peace on her own terms. In 2002, little Edie died at the age of 84 in her home at Bal Harbour in Florida, which is a happy ending to that, because she was by herself in her own home doing things that she liked, probably being fabulous as fuck out on the beach, which is what she liked to do. She liked to lay out on the beach and sunbathe. So she was probably happy as hell down in Florida in the nice weather, not having to worry about the rain and the wind. She's probably great. In 2003, the 1975 film was named one of the top 50 cult classics of all time. In 2006, the DVD release of the 1975 film with over 90 minutes of unreleased footage is released. In 2007, a Broadway show based on the Edies is awarded with 3 Tonys. And in 2009, the HBO movie Grey Gardens is released, starring Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange. The movie is an instant hit with cult followers and new fans alike, and the movie follows their lives as a normal film, and then it swiftly, towards the end, changes into like a mockumentary where they're basically reenacting the documentary. Even has like some actors playing the Maisel brothers and all of that. It's really, I like it. I love that movie so fucking much. And both women play the respective Edies throughout the entire movie. Neither one of them is really played by anybody else, and I really like that because they did a really good job on the makeup in this. It looks natural. It doesn't look forced. And you have to see. They always say you have to see the Grey Gardens documentary before you watch the 2009 movie, because the women will look super fake to you, but when you watch the real Grey Gardens, that's actually how they looked. So the makeup in the HBO movie might look severe, and it might look like it's too much until you see Grey Gardens, and then you're like, oh no, that's actually how these two looked. So, because little Edie had alopecia, so she lost her hair at a very young age, so that's why she wore the head coverings, was to cover her, her baldness. And it turned into her little fashion statement. That with her brooches, she was campy as fuck, and everyone loved her. I mean, I love Edie, little Edie. Big Edie, played by Jessica Lange, could not have been a better casting. Honestly, both of them, Drew Barrymore and Jessica Lange, did fucking phenomenal. Like, it's just so great. Honestly, both of them did incredible. Some of their best performances, like, in my opinion. And I'm a huge fan of both of them. But that's this week's episode. Ta-da! Started out heavy, ended with a history lesson about New York City elites. You can find me on all the socials. You can also find me at my website, which I will link in the show notes. You can contact me via email at hb3pod@gmail.com. If you like what you're hearing, please follow or subscribe and rate or review on whichever streaming platform you're listening on. It helps immensely. Also, my show isn't sponsored by anyone, but I do have some affiliates, and I would love if you'd check them out. All proceeds gained through any affiliates is put right back into producing and editing the show, as well as paying for web hosting fees. Any of the ads that you hear, those are strictly affiliates. I am not actually sponsored by anybody. That's why you hear me in the ads. Because I'm an affiliate. But, yeah, that's it. I love you. Thank you. Bye.
You dumb fucking bitch.
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 You bitch! The mega bitch!
Heinous bitch is the fucking bitch.
Bitch?
You're a bitch.
The bitch.
If you've ever thought about making your own podcast, I highly recommend using Buzzsprout. You can find a link in the show notes. And once you're there, they kind of explain everything for you. And it's really pretty cheap, honestly. They give you all kinds of tips and tools on how to increase listeners, how to promote your show, and on monetization. If you have any other questions, they are super responsive. They get back to you within a day, if not like an hour. I use Buzzsprout, and it gives me the ability to host my podcast on basically every single podcast hosting site and app. It's great. I love them. So I'm going to continue to use them. And if you are interested, you should definitely look into them. Like I said, there's a link in the show notes.